Hello marketeers, my name is Byron H. Diel. I'd like to welcome you to my presentation on the relationship between marketing and design. When I first started this project, I was very excited about this topic. Alright, again, and action. Hello marketeers. My name is Byron H. Diel. I'd like to welcome you to my presentation on the relationship between marketing and design. I'm very excited to address this topic, which strikes me as incredibly important. Design and marketing cannot exist without each other, and this is only becoming more true with time. The critical link between design and marketing is an understanding of human psychology. Without an intimate and ever-growing knowledge of human needs, desires, and fears, and a clever ingenuity directed toward the satisfaction of these drives, there can be no value proposition, therefore no business of any kind. While a vision of design in marketing this expansive is incredibly inspiring, for those of us who may lack the genius of a Steve Jobs, it can also seem a bit intimidating. Most mortals will be unlikely to anticipate human needs decades in advance and create cultural revolutions fueled by slick, sexy products we never even knew we needed. As my exploration of this topic continued, though, I found some solace in the words of the iPod designer Tony Fadell in his TED Talk when he said that design principles can be learned even if we don't happen to be naturally brilliant from birth. We can all learn to apply these principles even in small ways to make the world a slightly better place. To first give you an aerial overview of trends blending design and marketing at the level of grand strategy and leaving a little bit of room for a small taste of color theory, which any marketer will find immediately usable, I decided to bend the rules just slightly and briefly review 2 articles instead of 1. At no extra charge. I know what you're thinking. That sounds like a lot of great content and all, but I'm busy and I need to know what questions I need to respond to when I'm finally done watching this thing. Because I understand this feeling all too well, and I want you to be able to relax and feel inspired about the power of design and marketing. I decided to make the questions very easy and give them to you up front. There are no wrong answers, and there are only 2 questions. I just want to help get some creative juices flowing. Question number 1. How can I begin to implement principles of design processes or design philosophy into the marketing of my organization or the marketing of myself as an individual human in the world? Question number 2. In the spirit of Kaizen, what's the smallest thing I could do immediately to improve the effectiveness of my use of color? I'll repeat the questions at the end, so if you do happen to forget all about them now, you can just sit back and enjoy the rest of the ride. We do have a lot of fascinating ground to cover in a short time though, so you might want to buckle up. The first paper I will discuss is by Michael B. Beverland, Gerda, and Ingo O. Karpen in the Journal of Marketing Management 2017. It is somewhat awkwardly entitled Design, Consumption, and Marketing: Outcomes, Process, Philosophy, and Future Directions. The title is a little cumbersome, but it does give us a spoiler as to the 3 important sections. The first section addresses design's influence on marketing outcomes. The authors state that in the past, influence of design on marketing was viewed primarily as an aesthetic component. The article discusses the current trend to increasingly implement and evaluate design along 3 distinct dimensions: the aesthetic, the symbolic, and the functional. The symbolic dimension relates to how the product can be incorporated into the design process by way of which the customer crafts his or her self-image or public persona. Functionality in design goes beyond mere adequacy of function to address the ease of use or usability. The The second section addresses the incorporation of design process into marketing. Design process incorporates asking what might be questions and creating multiple iterations of any project using prototypes and trial and error. Big data and social media, customer reviews give marketers and designers tools for ongoing product and service refinement in rapid response to customer feedback that would never before have been possible. To operate at the level of design philosophy, marketers and designers must begin to look toward the relationship between one's business activities and the larger social and cultural contexts in which they exist, and attempt to craft these activities to promote favorable outcomes for the widest possible circle of stakeholders. In full disclosure, I actually wanted to focus this presentation on a paper called The Psychology Behind Web Design by Sarosha Imtiaz. Unfortunately, this seems to be an essentially self-published working paper, so I wasn't sure it would be sufficiently respectable for the purposes of this assignment. Because I do want to offer maximum value to my viewer, I simply must mention this article because it is an absolute goldmine of immediately usable material, much of it on color theory. I will provide the link in the video description and I highly recommend it. One of the papers referenced by Sarosha Imtiaz is a study in the September 2011 issue of the Journal of the Academy of Marketing Science by Lauren Labrecque and George Milne called Exciting Red and Competent Blue, the Importance of Color in Marketing. So, the experiment was performed on 279 graduate students who were shown a series of fictitious brand logos that were in the colors mentioned. And a wide variety of variables were controlled for to ensure that the data was good, and the results are as follows. So, hypothesis number one, there was found to be a positive relationship between sincerity and white, while the relationship between sincerity and yellow was not as strong. In terms of excitement, number two, the positive relationship between excitement and red was well supported by the evidence. However, there was only partially support for a relationship between excitement and orange. Competence, number three, there was a significant relationship between the perception of competence and the color blue. However, they did not find a significant relationship between competence and the color brown. Number four, there was deemed to be a significant correlation between perception of sophistication and the color black. And to a slightly lesser extent, pink and purple were also found to be sophisticated. There was a negative relationship discovered between the color orange and sophistication. So there's that. And the last hypothesis, number five, ruggedness. It was found that there was a significant relationship between ruggedness and the color brown. It was also found to be a negative relationship between ruggedness and pink, although that was not something that they were looking for. I don't have time to do it justice. I also just want to briefly mention one other very interesting study that was referenced by Sarosha Imtiaz. This one was by one author from Yahoo Labs and one from the College of Computing in Georgia Tech, and I will post the link to it. But it's called Red, Purple, and Pink, The Colors of Diffusion on Pinterest. And this study was actually funded by DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. So, they wanted it done well. But it was determined that red, purple, and pink images diffuse across Pinterest the fastest, and that green, blue, and black, and yellow slow the movement of images across Pinterest. So I thought that was interesting, and it's just a good example of the kind of research that is being done and the kind of data that we as marketers now have access to. And I'd like to thank you very much for watching my video. I learned a lot. I hope you learned something as well. From the first paper, we learned about the fact that marketing can be influenced by design in terms of the outcomes, also in terms of processes, the use of design processes in marketing, wherein we're taking feedback and we're iterating, we're putting a prototype out, and we're using trial and error to continue to improve that process and keep gaining feedback and keep refining it as we go. And also design philosophy, wherein we're trying to look at our marketing and our organization from a more holistic perspective, how it fits into the larger context and how it can be a part of creating a more valuable future for all stakeholders. In terms of the color material, I learned a lot about the kind of research that's taking place, and that there is good data to support things like brand personality associations to various colors, and that certain colors can be disseminated more quickly throughout the internet. Also, I didn't yet mention the color wheel. Complementary colors that are across from each other on the color wheel are thought to be effective, and colors that are in triads at 120 degree angles on the color wheel are thought to work well together. So I plan to experiment with both of those things. Big takeaway for me with all of this is that if we're learning to think like designers, we need to get in there and just get our hands dirty and start playing with the processes, start fiddling with Adobe products, try to draw, just work on getting your hands dirty trying to design things, even if they're ridiculous. That's how we try to get better. So I think no matter what we're doing, no matter what area of business or in life, learning to design at least a little bit, it certainly can't hurt, and it probably could help quite a bit. So anyway, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.